You clicked on this video, making you complicit in what I'm about to do. Hello everyone, and welcome back to what can only be described as my most cursed video. Today, I'm setting out to answer a question that many people have pondered but none have dared to truly ask out loud. A question that once answered will fuel doujins and fan art for years to come. A question that could single-handedly jeopardize any form of recognition that I have in the Fate community, forever changing my title as the guy with 16 Yuis. Today I'm going to answer the question, what servants in Fate Grand Order can get pregnant? Let's address the elephant in the room. It is reiterated time and again that servants are incapable of getting pregnant. This is due to the makeup of their spirit bodies being incapable of producing offspring, as well as the fact that a servant would have to remain manifested for the entire 9 months of pregnancy, when the average Holy Grail war ends within a month at most. To address the former part of that statement, the inclusion of the ability to have children is wholly unnecessary for what a servant's role is. Servants are, as the name implies, meant to serve a master in order to win a Holy Grail war and fulfill their wish. To this end, they have been contracted with the world to serve as guardians to humanity. Now, what is summoned is not actually the true main body of the heroic spirit, but rather an echo of the real thing created by the world that upon being defeated will return to the main body with the memories and experience. This is why servants have no recollection of past manifestations beyond the occasional and rare cases where they remember some things. As both an echo and exclusively a combatant, there is no real need for reproduction, and so that aspect is more or less left out of the equation when summoning. That is, if the servant is female. There are currently conflicting accounts as to whether a male servant is capable of having a kid with a human female. The main factor pointing towards this being possible comes from Hollow Ataraxia when Angra Mainyu has his way with Karen and comments that he should have knocked her up, but he didn't. Now, whether this was a wayward nasty comment made by a wayward nasty servant is up in the air, but it implies that such a thing is possible. To address the second part, the time issue, for the purpose of this video I am assuming that everything takes place in Chaldea in FGO, meaning that time isn't really a factor. Also, it's worth mentioning that a servant is capable of remaining after a Holy Grail war under certain circumstances. Given that a servant is composed of ether, they need to have a constant supply of magical energy. While the Grail itself provides this during the war, afterwards that energy is gone and so servants require a new supply. This can come from mages or through consumption of various high mana density materials. The second way is through Incarnation, which is a Doujin rider's best friend. This is where the spirit body gains a proper body. Their constitution becomes similar to a human's, but to be able to use their servant abilities, they must stay tied to a master. Any servant that has been incarnated can have children because they are essentially just humans. Also, a servant can be incarnated in a normal Holy Grail war through the use of all 3 command spells, which was seen in Fate Prototype with Perseus. Don't get your hopes up yet, Chaldeans, because the command spells on the Gouda's hands are substantially weaker than those of normal masters. In fact, all doujins involving command spell usage to force a servant to do something are lore inaccurate because of how weak the spells are. Sorry, NTR crowd, get fucked. Or don't. The final piece of evidence is Utsumi Heiress of Fate Requiem, whose father was a normal human and whose mother was a servant, the Japanese creator goddess Izanami. At present, it's not been explained how that was possible, but I will go into my own theory for that here in a minute. Fate Requiem is a bit of an oddball in the series, so it's not exactly the best one to draw concrete conclusions from, but it goes to show that the union of human and servants can and has created life. So, without further ado, let's see who in Chaldea can as well. Alright, so there's a number of categories that I think fit into this list. Starting with the most obvious, we have the living human servants. These are servants that have manifested by possessing the body of a living human. This allows for the servant to exist while either having full control of the body, acting as a second conscience, or having the 2 personalities mix. The servants on that list that could have children in Chaldea are Amor, Asagami Fujino, Astraya, Durga, Grey, Ishtar, Jaguar Man, Jinako, Bazit, Mash, Parvati, Ryogi Shiki, Reines, and Eris. Keen-eyed viewers will notice that I left out Ilya, Chloe, and Miyu, the magical girl special, if you will. This has less to do with my own disgust towards the topic, as both Reines and Eris are still on this list, and more to do with an issue of biology. One is a homunculus, one is a clone of a homunculus, and then the other is a cup covered in meat. Homunculus and Fate are complex because not all are made in the same way, and most are incapable of reproduction. This isn't even getting into whether or not they played for the University of Alabama football team. Another interesting note from this list is that Ishtar and Assassin Shiki are here, but Ereshkigal and Saber Shiki are not. In the case of Ereshkigal, she is possessing the body of a quote-unquote dead Tosaka Ren, whereas Ishtar is possessing a living one. In other words, it's canonically possible to turn Ereshkigal eagle into a beast of humanity by showing up with Ishtar pregnant. As for the Shiki situation, by the time that Shiki has become her saber form, she's essentially elevated beyond humanity, so calling her a living person is kind of inaccurate. As for the inevitable question regarding MASH, as she was grown in a lab, she more or less has incarnated and become a normal human after the events of part 1. Moving on to the second category, we have a subcategory of characters I'm going to call creator and fertility deities. This consists of any divine servant whose myth and legend associates them with either the creation of the planet or the creation of humanity, or strong associations with fertility and the creation of life, be it animal, human, or plant. A good non-servant example of a character in FGO who could theoretically have a child with a human would be Demeter. It is these traits that I believe made it possible for Izanami to have a kid with a human, given her status as a creator deity. As such, because it is such an integral part of her myth, she was able to re-harness those abilities to make a child for herself. The servants who fit into this criteria are Daikokuten, Gorgon, Jacques de Malay, Tiamat, Ketz, and Koyanskaya of Dark. Ketz and Tiamat are both traditional creator deities, so Masters of Chaldea are given the crossroad path of starting the new humanity as lucha libre experts or super horny. Jacques' possession by the mother goddess from Lovecraftian mythology makes her able to conceive, though it is very likely that whatever comes out will be a horror beyond human comprehension, also known as a normal human baby. Then there's the 3 weird ones on this list: Gorgon, Daikokuten, and Koyan. Gorgon is a bit easier to explain because there is a precedent. During the Babylonian Singularity, Gorgon was able to produce countless demons from within herself, and Medusa, while not normally associated with fertility, was an earth goddess before the Poseidon incident. While it wasn't exactly a traditional birthing, she was able to create life thanks to her unique biology. Now, the Gorgon we summon in Chaldea is different from the one we fought in Babylon. That's the whole spiritual echo thing, but given the she herself is associated with the creation of new life via the Pegasus and Chrysor, I think that she fits this list. Mind you, she'd sooner kill you than bear your child, but I'm a gambling man. Then there's Daikokuten. The rats being symbolic of this deity is not just because rats are attracted to commerce. Rats fuck, and they fuck a lot. Hence why Daikokuten is a fertility deity on top of being a business god. In fact, Daikokuten is one of the more straightforward servants about their ability to reproduce, and that's not just because they were written by Rio. The rat gangbang is real, and it's coming for you. Koyan Dark is another one that's weird simply because of why she exists, being the collected grudge of a bunch of dead animals turned into a new age creation goddess. Koyan is capable of creating new life at will so long as she has the genetic information downloaded into her tails. Now, does this mean that she can get pregnant? In a sense, yes. While I can't exactly vouch for how that would come about, if she retains your genetic information and then uses it to create offspring, I'm going to say that counts. Now let's talk about what I'm going to call the special case servants. These are the servants that I believe are capable of getting pregnant that aren't in the other category. Each of these servants has their own specialized reasoning as to why they're on this list, and I'm going to get into it whether you want me to or not. These servants are Bibi, Ibuki, Kama, Nido Chrysalter, Lancer Ryoma's Oreo, Scotty, Space Ishtar, Jane, MHX and all of her variants, Ranmaru, Tlaloc, Ash, Morgan, Castoria, Melusine, Consort Yu, Kukulkan, Lady Avalon, Da Vinci, Musashi, Maeve, Kichi Hogan, and Kashin Koji. Let's start with Bibi. While she is an AI, which should make conception impossible, her own incredibly high self-modification ability leaves the door open enough to say that it could happen. Whether she would allow this to happen or not is a whole other conversation. Ibuki is unusual because of what she is rather than who. Ibuki runs along a fine line of being an actual deity that is in Chaldea, unrestrained from having a human vessel. Gods are notoriously able to crossbreed with humans and make demigods, and the god of Mount Ibuki is one so powerful that it is at the center of several famous Japanese myths. So, even though she is a servant at the time of her summoning, her power is great enough that in theory she could lay a clutch of orange-haired eggs. Nido Chrysalter fits into this category as well, being a god powerful enough to make it happen if she so desires. Her own association with the balance of life and death also ebbs her into this category. Oreo, though fiercely loyal to her husband, thus making seduction impossible, could have children if she wanted to. This is because of the reveal that she wasn't truly dead because of her divine origins, in that she was merely in suspended animation under the ocean until the events of Gouda Gouda Steampunk. Scotty is a bit of a toss-up. Her representation in fate puts her into the mother goddess category, though Scotty herself is not technically one. But there is one primary factor that I think needs to be accounted for in her case. Runes. Runes, as they are presented in FGO, are powerful enough to alter a servant saint graph, effectively force-changing their class. Skadi is an ancient Nordic god/giant, and one particularly close to Odin, the one who discovered the runes on the World Tree. With these, it is entirely within the realm of reason that Skadi could make a Skadette. Skahawk could technically count for this as well, though her runes are weaker, so I'll leave her out of this. Space Ishtar, Jane, the MHXs, and Ranmaru share one thing in common. Servant-verse bullshit. Now, something that is often forgotten with the Servant-verse and its servants is that they are not really summoned so much as they just show up. The Servant-verse is a whole thing happening alongside our universe. Now, how new servants repopulate the Servant-verse is very loosely explained. It is said that whenever a servant dies, they manifest somewhere else in the Servant-verse. Given the case with MHX, we know that they retain their memories after this process. However, do they have sex and make kids? Signs point to yes. Remember, Space Ishtar thought that she was Tokiomi's daughter. Couple this with schools as well, and it paints a picture that repopulation is a possibility. With the translation of Ranmaru's Valentine scene as well, she explicitly mentioned that she is considered both marrying the Master of Chaldea, as well as having a more intimate relationship. This implication coming after the mention of marriage is just Fate's coy way of saying that she's trying to fuck. Now, of the Servant-verse characters, the one who is most likely actually able to have kids is Space Ishtar. And this is because she is a universe-creating deity stuffed into a tomboy cowgirl. I'm running off of the assumption that if one can do it, all of them can. Tlaloc should technically be a part of the list of creation gods, if not for the deep lore that she is a city. However, the fact that she contains multiple powerful creation deities within herself, as well as being the literal motherland of the Mexica, I would assume that she would be able to make a new line of Mexica at Chaldea as well. The Lost Belt 6 crew is kind of an odd one. Ash/Morgan and Castoria are fairies of paradise, not normal fairies. It's explicitly stated that normal fae are incapable of having children, simply reincarnating in a new form eventually, with few or none of the memories of their past selves. This same rule does not apply to the fairies of paradise. They appear to be something different than both human and fae, and as such, their rules are a bit more foreign to us the reader. So I'm going to base this off of the knowledge that we have of the other fairies who reside in paradise, namely Merlin and Lady Avalon, who is also on this list. Both of them are theoretically capable of creating children simply due to their magical prowess. As such, if learned, both Morgan and Castoria could have natural kids with the assistance of Viagra magic. Melusine is the unusual one of the Lost Belt 6 crowd because she is a dragon, not a fairy. Basing my knowledge of dragons on D&D, dragons are able to conceive with any race. Melusine can get pregnant. It should be noted that Melusine is a true dragon, or rather a part of one, so dragon trait characters like Artoria and Liz are exempt from this rule. Consort Yu is an immortal vampire incapable of dying. Though she is an immortal, she theoretically should be able to have a child. Mind you, the only way that she would allow that to happen is if it was with Zhang Yu, and I believe that she is still trying to work out the logistics of that situation, which is why it hasn't happened yet. Kukulkan is another creator deity, but her fate rendition makes it more complicated. However, I believe the creator deity aspect takes precedent, and therefore she's able to create a long line of nuclear reactors. Now for one of the really weird ones, Da Vinci. And I mean this Da Vinci, not this Da Vinci. Da Vinci's superior intellect and ability to alter her body into a perfect form upon manifestation implies that she could theoretically alter herself in a way that would allow her to have children. She would also theoretically be able to create a doll version of herself that was able to reproduce if she so desired. Musashi is maybe the most complicated of these. Up until Shimosa, Musashi is functionally just a really strong human. A human who can fight on par with servants, but a human nonetheless. As such, any time between our first meeting and the end of Shimosa would have been a possible window to make an Iori. After that, she becomes a heroic spirit, making the process more complicated. Maeve is shown being able to produce offspring, in quotes, manifesting her army of loyal Celts to serve her. In the NA localization, they expressly use the term birth for this process, but not in the literal sense. While sex is 100% a part of the process as she needs the genetic information, after she has it, she can produce soldiers from her blood taken from the tips of her fingers. So she and Koyan Dark operate in a very similar way, so if you want to call that getting pregnant, you can. Kichi Hogan is a yokai, and an incredibly powerful one at that. Possessing a hidden wealth of magical abilities in ancient Japanese martial arts, it is well within the realm of possibility that she has a trick to make an army of Tengu halflings with the master. Specifically, she actually has a skill called Natural Spirit Species that is not used in FGO with an unknown effect. I'm going to interpret that as an ability that allows her to achieve a natural, though non-human, aspect of herself. And finally, we have Kashin Koji. Koji is a bizarre figure in many ways, from being a historical magician at the time of Oda Nobunaga, to being able to defy the laws of reality in her legends, to being a doll that can completely augment itself. Koji falls into a similar category as Da Vinci in my mind. The unexpectedly important lore that is revealed in her Valentine scene seems to confirm this to a degree, being able to not just transfer her own body to a new model, but to do the same for others and make it fully customizable, which is bewildering. This isn't even getting into the fact that in Fate lore she can just gender swap people completely, as evidenced by Sugitani. All of this to say, under the right circumstances, you too can have a spider wife. Well, that was fun, and by fun I mean I'm sorry. Naturally, this is all working on theoreticals, and can only be described as a Schrodinger's box of pregnancy thanks to the loosey-goosey nature of the Nasuverse. For God's sake, don't take anything stated here as concrete fact until it is proven, and I swear to God, if I see people referencing this video in legitimate arguments, I'm gonna do it again, I'm gonna do it with the boys, and I'm going to do it with actual research and not make it a shitpost. Check out the other bullshit and less cursed things that I do down below and subscribe for the significantly less cursed knowledge. Keep your chin up, lads. Peace.
I'm coming.